All right, everybody. How's it going? Welcome to the All Variety Sports Show, hosted by Andrew and
Sean, here we go. We are, you know, longtime friends from high school. Always should talk sports in class, and kept in contact over the years. Still talking sports, playing fantasy sports with each other, all that kind of stuff. So, why not do a podcast? Why not do the sports talk? Out in front of a camera, put it on video, have some fun with it. So here we are.
exactly. The only thing that's unfortunate about Sean is if you can see the uh, Yankees stuff behind him when this is clearly a LA podcast, but you know,
A little bit
nobody's
of
perfect.
contrast. I got the Colts gear on with the Yankee stuff in the background. I'm a troubled child. But dedicated to my team since I was a little kid. So at least I'm loyal. Can't call me a bandwagoner. Been through all the tough times. Colts haven't won in a million years. Yankees haven't won in going on 16 years. So it is what it is.
16. I didn't realize it had been that long. 2009. That's
Yeah.
right.
Oh nine feels like an eternity ago. And of course, it had to be they finally get back to the World Series the first time in 15 years, and it has to be against the Dodgers. Live in LA. I'm the Yankee guy. People have known for a million years, and of course, the Dodgers kicked the shit out of us, and yep,
Dude,
got a lot of shit for a lot of weeks, and I still am. So it is what it is.
I wouldn't even say it was purely the Dodgers. It was like 90% Freddie Freeman.
Oh, he was unbelievable. Felt like I mean, he literally did hit a home run almost every game. I think the first what 3 or 4 games
Yeah, it was
he
something
hit a
crazy
homer.
like that. I mean, obviously, he has one of the most iconic home runs in World Series history now. A grand slam to win game one on a hobbled ankle.
He really tried to do the Kirk Gibson uh redo, the modern version, and that's
Exactly.
about as close as it gets. Like that was our generation's Kirk Gibson because obviously we weren't around to see 88 when that World Series is going on. But I mean, had to happen against my team. Just my luck, but whatever. We move on. But got the Colts gear on today. It's been a special day. NFL draft. You're a Colts fan as well.
Yes. We
You've been documenting every pick very well. I'm very impressed with, everything you've been jotting down about this draft and all the details. But as a Colts fan, Tyler Warren, by the grace of God, falls to number 14.
I am
How
ecstatic
lucky are
about that.
we?
Uh
What are your thoughts on Tyler Warren and what do you expect from him, obviously, with the quarterback situation?
so another thing we should say is we're both USC fans. So we are very
Yep.
familiar with Tyler Warren's game after he
Yes.
went for 17 catches
Oh,
and 224 yards with a touchdown against us in the Penn State SC game.
he com-
Single-handedly carried that team on his back.
yeah, he dominated us.
So
And the game was
I'm
still close
expecting
though.
I'm expecting to get that every game from him. Number one pick in fantasy, hands down.
What do you project him as in terms of another tight end in the pros that you hope he becomes like?
So I'm gonna reference Pro Football Focus a lot. I really enjoy their content and everything, and I thought they had a really great comparison for him and someone that you'll be familiar with is they have shades of Dallas Clark.
Hmm, I
So
like that.
as a Colts fan, you know Dallas Clark was the dump off man. Probably, I mean, when you have uh, Reggie Wayne and Marvin Harrison, he's never going to be the number one receiver, but he
Yeah.
might have been Peyton Manning's like favorite receiver out of the three of them.
Oh yeah. I mean, a lot of times we see a quarterback use their tight end as a security blanket. They're attacking the middle of the field. Wide receivers aren't getting separation. They're not open. You dump it off to your tight end and you say, go get him, big fella. Or it could be a great red zone target, big body in the red zone, bowling a couple DBs or safeties, throw a jump ball kind of thing. So I'm hoping those type of things are what Warren's going to become for Anthony Richardson, assuming that Richardson stays healthy for the whole season, because that's been a problem for him. But I, I would have to look at the frame, but I would hope that he's somewhat of a TJ Hawkinson type, big body, dependable for what 7 to 9 catches a game.
Mhm.
attack the middle of the field, red zone target, can run with the ball, can block, kind of a versatile receiving tight end, the kind that we've been needing on the Colts for a long time. So, um, super, I couldn't believe he fell um, past Dallas. I thought Dallas might take him. Um,
I think the thing that shocked me the most was that he wasn't the first tight end taken. That
True.
Colson Loveland from the tight end from Michigan was taken above him. I
Right.
thought if a tight end went off the board, it was going to be Warren for sure. I mean, he has
Yeah.
everything you were just talking about. 6'6", 261. He's a little older. He's 23, but he really only started last year, but had a 91.3 PFF grade, which is elite. He had 104 catches for 1,230 yards, 8 touchdowns. Uh, he was third in tight ends for contested catches with 13. And one thing that a lot of people really like is his what you're saying is like versatility to move around. He can play fullback if they need something like that. He can block, he can catch. He's a huge target down there in the red zone. And especially one thing you'll notice with Anthony Richardson is he likes to just throw the ball up for grabs.
Yep.
And that's something that Warren can do really well. Just come down with it.
Yeah, took the words right out of my mouth. I mean, for a quarterback who's not the most accurate, and I'm being nice, he could be a little erratic, and that big 6'6" body is going to reach out and somehow come down with that football. So it takes a little bit of pressure off Richardson having to be, extremely accurate. Some of our most recent tight ends had stone hands, a lot of drops, a lot of inability to get open. Couldn't really get a whole lot out of the tight end position. So this is a really exciting get. Um, Especially if you can pound the football, Jonathan Taylor, you can work the play action game. You can get the tight end, pass the line of scrimmage, get out into the flat, dump it off to him, see what he can do, short range third down kind of situations, get the first down. Because I know sometimes moving the ball and converting third downs was a struggle for the Colts last season. So, I mean, he can help in so many ways, being a possession receiver, blocking, a red zone target, just being a security blanket for Richardson, who needs to make the next progression in his career, especially coming off, a couple seasons where he has been injury prone, been erratic at times. So this is huge. I was a little bit afraid that Ballard, sometimes he likes to prove how smart he is. I was afraid he was going to go a different route there. And thank God he took Warren, because I was like, if he doesn't take Warren, I don't know what I'm going to do. The stars have aligned. We
Yeah.
need tight end so bad. If he doesn't do it right here, I don't think he can keep his job.
I think
And
Warren to the Colts was mocked almost as much as Cam Ward to the Tennessee Titans.
yeah,
Uh, you know, if he was there, they had to take him. It was just one of those things.
right.
Like the Shane Steichen likes to work in the tight end, use them a lot, and so that was just something we needed.
Yeah,
But
and it was one of those situations where you don't know if the Colts were going to have to trade up, where they're going to have to sacrifice some of their other draft picks to get up there and make sure they got Warren. I know Jerry Jones likes flashy offensive players, so you don't know if he want if the Cowboys might have taken him there, and given Dak that kind of security blanket. But the stars aligned. The the tortured Colts fan in me expected the Dolphins to take him right before our pick. So when he cleared the Dolphins, that's when I really started getting excited. So I was like, "Holy crap, we got it!" So honestly, this is one of the most exciting draft picks I can remember, outside of Jonathan Taylor and Andrew Luck a million years ago. So I'm super stoked for this, and I can't wait to watch him. I wish the season started tomorrow. I want to see this dude out there, catching 10 passes a game and going nuts. So high hopes for that for sure. But in terms of the rest of the draft, obviously. Uh, I'm not really paying attention to the last couple picks, but Shedeur Sanders falling in the draft has been a huge topic, probably the topic of this draft. Why do you think that happened, and where do you think he might end up?
that's a good question. So, if you watch the ESPN one, they are just like so. Jackson Dart, the Giants make a big trade, uh, move up to 25, take Jackson Dart. They talked about Shadir Sanders of that pick more than they did Jackson Dart.
Yeah,
Uh, Mel Kiper actually had to come out after and say something like, "Oh, Jackson Dart is a great player, and I just really feel blah blah blah." No, uh, Shador is the most polarizing pick in the draft, probably. You know,
Thanks to his dad.
uh, his dad, his attitude, just like the swagger that he has, and uh, you know, I personally believe he still should have gone late first round, but seeing that it looks like he's going to drop to the second round, I think, uh, if Tennessee still has their second round pick, I think they're trading before tomorrow. Someone's going to trade up. They want Shador.
Yeah.
Now, who would it be? Uh, there's Cleveland. Cleveland could be in the mix. The the Raiders possibly.
Yeah. The
They would only
Saints got
have
a
to
lot of talk.
Saints. That's that's one that I could really see. Um,
And I think him playing indoors in New Orleans would be a good fit. I know he's not the most physically imposing or super crazy athletic type of quarterback. So, I mean, a lot of people when he was floating around there around Pittsburgh's pick were talking, "Oh, Shador might go to Pittsburgh," but he just doesn't seem like an AFC North type of quarterback, I guess you could say. I think the physicality and some of the things he was going to have to overcome in terms of the weather and things like that might have been a challenge for him. Um, but it's definitely interesting to see him sitting there in wherever he's at with his dad and with all the family and everybody, and not even going on day one. So
right.
they're gonna have to pack up the party and come back tomorrow because this has been absolutely insane. But I like Mel Kiper said a million times. There's been a lot of quarterbacks that dropped to the later rounds. He's probably going to be totally fine. This doesn't mean he's a bad player or he's going to have a bad career or whatever. It's just maybe there's some question marks that teams had about him. The Giants obviously like Jackson Dart more than him, um, and he'll probably figure it out. But I think the right situation is going to be huge for him. And then you have to wonder if you're the team drafting him, how much am I going to have to hear from and deal with dad?
Exactly.
Polarizing NFL Hall of Famer. I mean, you just got to call it how it is. He's a loudmouth. The guy speaks his mind. If you have a plan for Shador and dad doesn't agree, his dad going to start chirping. He's going to make phone calls. How does that dynamic go with his dad? And I think that it's not the determining factor for Shador, but it's something you have to think about if you're going to take him. So um, definitely a very interesting situation there. It'd be very interesting to watch into day two. I think I think they're going to be excited on ESPN for ratings purposes. Now there's a reason to watch the next day of the draft to try and see where Shador goes. Because a lot of casual fans will watch day one and then they'll forget about the rest of it and just Google who got taken or whatever. But um, how do you feel about Cam Ward and Travis Hunter both going to the AFC South, where our beloved Colts just so happen to play?
Man, so Cam
Tough.
Ward, I'm a big fan of his. We talked a little bit
Me
about
too.
like the swagger that Shador has. Cam Ward definitely, I feel like, has more. Um, Finished fourth in the Heisman voting, had a 92.9 PFF grade, is just shy of 23, but put up an impressive stat line with 4,313 yards, 39 touchdowns on 7 interceptions, and a 67.2 passer rating. Uh, Led the Miami Hurricanes to 9-0 finish or 9-0 start, although they finished 10-3 and missed the playoffs. The one big knock that I see when looking at his stuff is that he was slightly less effective when under pressure. Now this could have been just because of outside of things like were the receivers at Miami up to par? Was he under pressure a lot because of Miami's offensive line? If he has a good offensive line in front of him and it doesn't face pressure, he is an elite prospect.
And that could be something, a lot of young players, when they're in a system, when they're going through their progressions, you are hoping, I mean, especially coming out of high school, where usually you can use your athleticism to get out of the pocket if there's trouble. but most of the time you're standing in the pocket and you can do whatever you want. So it could be growing pains for him. He just might need to be coached up a little bit, evade the pass rush, maybe play calling could help with that too. Get the ball out early, get the ball into the running back's hands. Kind of build him up a little bit. It's going to be interesting to see whether Will Levis starts the season right off the bat, or if Cam Ward's going to start right off the bat, if they're going to have somewhat of a competition in camp. But I mean, going number one overall, taking the quarterback number one overall, you expect him to probably take the job. I think we've seen enough of Will Levis over the last couple of years with all of his patented meme
with his
frames,
Mayo.
all the screenshots of him on his knees and flying through the air and all the crazy stuff that you see about Will Levis. So I think the Titans are a little bit over him. Um, and I think Cam Ward, I mean, one thing that stands out with Cam Ward a lot is I love the 67.2% completion percentage. I mean, he's completing almost 70% of his passes. I don't think accuracy is going to be a problem. So you're going to get a guy that's going to come out there with a strong arm, dynamic athleticism, and he's accurate, with the completion percentage and all those different kind of things. So I think the Titans are off to the right idea by taking him. And it's unfortunate that's in our division because we saw C.J. Stroud go to the Texans. He's kind of been the pain in our butt. Cam Ward goes there. Trevor Lawrence is a former top pick going to the Jags.
Right.
I mean, he's been a little disappointing, but there's still some quality play in there somewhere if someone could get it out of him. Situation hasn't been great there, but I mean, giving him a Travis Hunter as a wide receiver, going to be probably the slot, maybe move him to the outside, put him into some, RPO type stuff, and just utilize his athleticism, get the ball in his hands. It's going to be interesting to see how they use him. Is he going to play be 80% offense, 20% defense, maybe, or maybe there's some specialized packages they might fit him into to play defense. But very interesting first two players. Jaguars trading up to get him. He's a Heisman Trophy winner.
Yeah. I feel
One of
like
the first recruits to come from Jackson State. So he's kind of a trailblazer in that sense. But it's unfortunate that they're going to our division in particular, because now when they're playing the Colts, we're going to have to watch Trevor Lawrence and Travis Hunter cook. We're going to have to watch Cam Ward come into his own against us. We're going to watch C.J. Stroud keep thumping us over the head when we try to make the playoffs. So it's going to be a lot of talents coming into that division, and it's going to be, tough for us. And we're going to really hope Anthony Richardson can find it so we can have that guy on our team as well.
yeah, a few things that I noticed is when you were saying that. I think the AFC South might be the only division with uh all quarterbacks under like 25 and under that were top 5 draft picks.
Yeah,
As well as when you talk about Travis Hunter, he's just a freak of nature when it comes to stamina. The fact that he was able to play nearly full-time wide receiver and cornerback is absolutely incredible.
yeah,
Now, can he do this full-time like you were saying in the NFL with the physicality being so much greater? I think he goes from maybe like a 90-90 guy playing 90% on each side to maybe like 75% each, but I say you do it until he shows that he can't do it. Because if you gave up so much, like they gave up, what was it? Uh they traded the 5th overall pick, their second round pick, a swapped 4th, and then a 26 first round pick. You're hoping you get 2 players in one. You get a wide receiver and a cornerback from that pick because
so
you
he's
don't
essentially the Otani of football now.
exactly. Uh, at that point, like when you're giving up that much, uh, usually you only see that for like the premium positions, which would be like quarterback, uh,
Pass
tackle,
rusher.
pass rusher. But wide receiver and cornerback have become both premium positions. And if you're able to get 2 premium players in one from the trade, that's huge.
For
Like,
sure. And there is a little bit of talk about his abilities as a defensive back not being great. Some people, I'm on Twitter a lot, and I was looking at a lot of talk about him. Some people were going as far as calling him a sieve on defense, letting everything through. So if that was happening in college, do you think NFL scouts are seeing that and potentially the Jaguars saw that and might primarily focus on him being a ball carrier offensively? Or do you think they're going to give him a shot on defense and see how that works out? What do you think about that?
I think 100% you have to give him a shot on defense. You know, uh, just looking at some of the things, he was targeted on less than 10% of the passes that he was out there. Last year, he allowed 222 yards and had 4 interceptions and allowed a 39.9 passer rating. So he might not be lining up against every team's number one, but the person he's lining up against is not doing well. Uh, you know, there are going to be plays you're going to always get beat as a defensive player. That's just the way it is now in the with
Yeah.
the offensive rules. But uh, it's like you're saying, if you're not giving him the chance to do both, you don't take a wide receiver purely number two. Like he might not be the most talented wide receiver in this draft. I personally really liked, and I'm gonna absolutely murder his name, is Teteroa McMillan. I think he is probably the best pure wide receiver in the draft class, but not that Travis Hunter is very far behind. But the fact that he can do both is what adds to his value.
I definitely agree. It's interesting to see McMillan go to Arizona because now he's going to be paired with Marvin Harrison Jr., who I wanted as a Colt, by the way. Um, so there's some going to be some good wide receiver play there. Another draft pick that stuck out to me was Ashton Jeanty going to the Raiders.
Oh yeah.
Pete Carroll loves to run that West Coast offense. He's going to pound the rock, except for at the 1 yard line in the Super Bowl. By the way, I don't
If
know
you
if
didn't say it, I was gonna say it.
you you know as USC fans, we know back in the day, Reggie Bush, Lendell White, he loves to run the offense through his running game. Maybe Genty becomes somewhat of a beast mode kind of type. I mean, he's a smaller type guy at 5'9". Um, but they love to run the offense through the running game, so he's going to get a lot of work there. And with Geno, there could be some RPO stuff going on there. Pete Carroll might get a little bit creative, so that'll be interesting. And his numbers, I mean, he gets a lot of slack for the lack of competition that he faced in college. When you bring up his numbers, like, oh, he didn't play against any real teams, but I mean, he put up some absolutely eye-popping numbers regardless of the competition. I mean, it's not like he's playing against high school teams. They're just still, somewhat put together college programs.
Yeah, I
And
mean, even one of his biggest games he had was against Oregon, who is no slouch.
right.
Uh, you know,
And I mean, college football in general, is any team really playing that great defense outside of maybe Michigan?
right.
Alabama's defense hasn't been that great the last couple years. Obviously, the Ohio States of the world and those kind of bigger programs, you'll see better players. Penn State, but Penn State's defense, I mean, they give up a bunch of yards to USC, so it's like you can't really be like, oh well, he just ran through a bunch of weak squads. Well, most of college football, the defense aren't that great, so um, he got his kudos to him, but he demonstrated ability and talent that obviously will translate at the next level. And Pete Carroll, who loves running backs and understands what it takes to be a running back at the next level, obviously liked him enough to take him there. So definitely a good pick for them.
I think the
Um,
next pick that I thought was one of my favorites, but also just an absolute surprise, was Michael Williams going number 11 to the San Francisco 49ers. The edge out of Georgia. He is only 20 years old right now.
wow.
As a junior, started as a freshman in college on a loaded Georgia defense. Is 6'5", 265. He's still a raw prospect. He didn't put up great numbers against like as a pass rusher, but at 6'5", 265, he did have a really good uh run defensive grade, but he just has that athletic ability that a guy, if you can get the right defensive coordinator, that's exactly what can unlock him. And the fact that they have what's his name? The on the he was the Jets head coach recently.
Robert Saleh.
Robert Saleh just returned to the 49ers as a
Yep.
defensive coordinator. And we've seen what he's done with guys like Eric Armstrong and DeForest Buckner. So I'm really excited to see what he can do with.
Yeah, 20 years old is crazy. He's got a lot of good years ahead of him. Couple other ones, just touching on them before we get to some NBA talk. Um, I thought the Matthew Golden moment was really cool. Green Bay, they had been waiting for a wide receiver to be taken since 2002. And that crowd, when I think it was one of the team representatives said it,
Right.
a wide receiver for the first time, and the crowd went absolutely nuts. I thought that moment was so cool. He came out and talked a couple times, and it was just a really cool moment for Green Bay and really exciting for them to finally get the receiver they've been looking for. And then Jackson Dart going to the Giants. Giants trading up. A lot of us thought maybe Shador would have gone there. I think Shador and his family might have thought that too. Very interesting that they were talking about Dayball kind of sees a little bit of Josh Allen and Jackson Dart. He has the mobility, he has the arm strength, a little bit of grittiness to him. Um, so Dayball is going to pretty much take him in as a project. I know they already have Jameis Winston and Russell Wilson there. So Jackson's going to be probably buried on the depth chart, maybe third quarterback in the room. But he's going to get two pretty experienced quarterbacks to bounce some ideas off of and learn from. And Dayball is quote unquote a quarterback whisperer. So that's going to be a very interesting situation to watch there with the Giants.
Yeah. I'm actually a really big Jackson Dart fan.
I like him too.
So when Lincoln Riley came to USC and Caleb Williams transferred with him, obviously that's when Jackson Dart left, but that actually was like a hurt for me. That hurt for me because I was actually a big fan of his. I saw the way he played as a true freshman. He was great, and I was really, really happy with the pick. Uh, you know, he's set and broke all of Ole Miss's uh all of Ole Miss's records, beating Eli Manning, who obviously was a first overall draft pick, and just he seems to have that it factor to me. Something that I feel like Shador might have lacked a little bit.
Mhm.
Another pick that I really want to talk about is this will be the last one for the draft. Is the Ravens are consistently the best drafting team in the NFL. They get Malachi Starks, the safety from Georgia, at number 27, a prospect who PFF has as the number 8 prospect, and they get to pair him with Kyle Hamilton. Now, uh, he's extremely athletic, really smart when it comes to his football IQ, and I feel like he's a guy that can just slide in there and help with what was already a great defense in Baltimore.
Yeah, and when you think about Baltimore, you think about defense. So no surprise that they got a safety there. Um, they play a physical brand of football. I think he's going to fit right in. Um, and it's so true what you say about Baltimore being one of the best drafting teams in the league because every year they just continue to fill their roster with solid players on both sides of the ball. And they're waiting for Lamar and the rest of those dudes to put something together and get them over the hump there. Something that Josh Allen and the Bills are trying to do as well in the Patrick Mahomes era. It's like they're in the Super Bowl every year. So is it going to be the Ravens or the Bills to take that next step? Um, and it's interesting to see both of them, try to fill their rosters and build their rosters with players that they think can make a great contribution against the Chiefs to try to get over the hump, try to get into that Super Bowl. So very interesting to see what the Ravens do the rest of the way after that great pick.
All right, so let's go ahead and let's pivot back to some NBA news. So, Lakers are in a dogfight of the series right now. Let's talk about game one first, and then we'll cheer ourselves up with game two. So, game one, Lakers lose on their home court. First time having a home court since 2020 when they won the championship. Lose to Minnesota 117 to 95. led by 7 after the first quarter, and then were outscored 38-20 in the second quarter. Minnesota ends up shooting over 50% from the field, but was 21 of 42 for 50% field goal percentage from 3. The Lakers had only 15 assists, while the Timberwolves had 29. And points in the paint, Minnesota beat them by 12 with 44-32. What happened to this vaunted Lakers defense that everybody was talking about?
Yeah, I mean, some of the quotes after the game, you heard Reeves and others talk about physicality. I don't think they understood the type of physical test they were about to endure against Minnesota. One of my first impressions with that first game was Minnesota's size and length throughout their not only their starting lineup but their bench. McDaniels, and you had Nas Reed, and you had some other guys, Edwards, Gobert, um, Julius Randle. So they had great length, they had good size, and they were giving Lakers trouble on the offensive end for sure. Plus, they were shooting the lights out. I don't think it felt like Nas Reed didn't miss a shot the whole game. So he's a big guy. He can spread the floor. He was hanging out in the corners, hitting corner threes all night. Um, and the Lakers really had no answer for it. LeBron had a bit of a down night. Luka kind of carried the load offensively, but you see that happen, and you think Minnesota's not going to shoot 50% from the floor and 50% from the three going forward. So probably what happened there was a little bit unsustainable. So I was really looking for JJ Redick to make some good adjustments heading into game two. The players understood the physical test they were going to have to face. And you also can't let Minnesota come in and take 2 games in LA before you head back to Minnesota. So um, pretty surprising game one. There were times where the Lakers still, even with how good Minnesota was shooting, there were still times where the Lakers would pull up a little bit and get closer, and that gap was kind of closing for Minnesota. So you're like, okay, if Minnesota ends up not shooting the lights out in the next game, and the Lakers can make a few runs, LeBron plays a little bit better, Reeves shoots better, they can have a chance. And I think that's what we saw in game two. Um, there were stretches in game two where uh, I mean, the Lakers were up by a lot. I mean, I think
Right.
they were up by 20 and close to 20 or around 20 in a couple instances. I couldn't watch the entire game, but LeBron was better offensively. Austin Reeves shot better. The Lakers had an advantage from rebounding. They had an advantage in the assists. And to everyone's surprise, Minnesota didn't shoot 50% for the whole night again. There were a little bit of a regression to the mean there. So a little bit of back and forth in games one and two. It's going to be very interesting to see how the teams adjust again, seeing this first game in Minnesota coming up. But what were some of your impressions?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing that I saw was the way that the game was handled by the refs. So you talked about how the physicality of game one. In game two, you had Nas Reed in foul trouble. They couldn't figure out whether he had 3 or 4 fouls for half the game. The Then you saw Jaden Daniels getting hurt, or not hurt, in foul trouble. Randall was in foul trouble. Dante DiVincenzo was in foul trouble. So a lot of their best shooters were in foul trouble and not able to get into a rhythm. This really helped. Lakers also just came out absolutely blazing in the first quarter. They were up 34-15. Luka, I think, outscored the Timberwolves in that first quarter. Ends up with 31, 12, and 9. LeBron had a good game, 21, 11, and 7. But Reeves is going to be one of our X factors because I feel like those two are always going to be there. Even though LeBron didn't play amazing in game one, he was still putting up like a 20-point game. But
Yeah.
Reeves not playing like he has been all season in the first game was a huge thing. The fact that he was able to come out with 16, 5, and 5 and shoot better was huge.
Yeah.
Um, I feel like this was an old school, like 2008, 2009 type of Lakers game where
Yeah.
neither team scored 100, which is extremely rare in this day's NBA.
Yeah.
94 to 85 as a final score is something that you could see as the end of the third quarter in most games now.
Yeah, for sure. Um, definitely a lot to look forward to from the Lakers in terms of building some momentum from this game. Um, I think they figured out the physicality issue from game one. I think they will shoot better. I think they got LeBron and Luca. LeBron, Luca, and Reeves, that's their big three. They're only going to go as far as those three take them. So getting Reeves into better situations where he's going to get great looks. Um, Using LeBron as not only a facilitator, but a guy who's going to crash the paint. And, he's going to get his dunks, he's going to get his layups, or he can drive and kick to Luca. So there's a lot of different ways you can use those three players. But Finney Smith playing some wing defense, maybe Gabe Vincent blast from the past shooting like he was in Miami would be huge for them. So there are some supporting cast guys that if they can contribute a little bit down the stretch outside of that big three, they're going to have some success going forward. Um, so that's definitely something to look forward to. Some of these other NBA playoff games, couple things that stuck out to me. Definitely this Thunder and Grizzlies series. The Thunder are absolutely smacking these guys, and it's been pretty surprising to me. Obviously, the Thunder were the best team in the NBA by far, record wise. They continually keep getting questioned in terms of can they do it in the playoffs? Can they do it against great competition going forward? And they are leaving they are leaving a mark on the Grizzlies that is echoing throughout the rest of these playoffs and getting a lot of people's attention. So it's definitely interesting. But what are some of the thoughts on some of these other NBA playoff games, these playoff series that you've been following, and what do you think is going to happen from there?
Yeah, I feel like just like you said, the Thunder are just making it not even a series right now.
Yeah.
It They are in complete control. They're finally healthy. Chet Holmgren was hurt for a lot of the season. He's back now. He's one of their X factors. They put up as good of a record as they did with him not coming back until the last month or two of the season. Uh, Maybe the best series I've seen so far has been the Nuggets and Clippers, both
Hmm.
very close games. Uh, if Kawhi plays like he has been, he is the number two in that series, behind
Yeah.
Jokic.
Big
But
time.
I think it comes down to, and I hate to say this, but Russell Westbrook is a huge thing there. If he plays well, he really facilitates that offense with their sixth man as their sixth man and everything. But when he's not on, he is extremely detrimental to the team. He is just so volatile.
I I know he was phenomenal in OKC back in the day, and he's had his moments on other teams. Obviously, he's a stat stuffer kind of guy. He's triple double guy, very athletic, dynamic type of player. But at this point in his career, he's every bit of Russell Westbrook that that's the reputation he's earned on social media. Um, he gets really mad when people in the stands call him that. He's a talk about a polarizing player. He gets pissed off. He goes at fans. He has great games. He has horrible games. And I feel like a team like the Nuggets that for so long just felt buckled, kind of buttoned up. They're doing things the right way. They won their championship. Jokic obviously could be arguably the best player in the game, at least stats wise. For them to take on a Russell Westbrook type, it just didn't make sense to me. I don't think he fit what they were trying to do. Um, and it's been a tough watch. I'm glancing at the score right now. The Clippers are up by 20 in the fourth quarter. So Denver's looking at going down 1-2 in the series. And it's going to be one of those things where is the Nuggets window officially closed? I mean, I know they fired their head coach right before the playoffs started. Jokic is going to get his numbers. Murray is Murray in the playoffs, but there's been some questions about Porter Jr. There's been some questions about their depth, their bench not being very deep. So um, Do you see any way the Nuggets can fix this, or do you think this is kind of winding down towards the end of their window?
You know, after they won the championship, a lot of their key role players left. They still have the core there,
Yeah.
but guys like KCP
Hmm.
left, uh,
Bruce Brown.
Bruce Brown. Those were core guys, to like key guys to their championship win. Now they're looking at guys who are young and not experienced when it comes to the playoffs, as well as uh, everybody we that you mentioned earlier being 2 to 3 years older.
Yeah,
Jokic
definitely.
is obviously someone that you have to pay whatever he wants. Jamal Murray is eating up a huge chunk of the cap right now,
Hmm.
and might not be enough to be the number two on a championship team. Um, and if I was the Nuggets, I'd be scared because there are a lot of rumors that Jokic does not want to be there, and that
Right.
he wants to play with Luca.
Can you imagine that?
Dude,
I mean, come on, man. I mean, we lucked into the Luka trade. I mean, that was my jaw was on the floor. I searched every like Shams Charania, Woj, all those guys. I searched all their accounts to make sure this was real. And it was real. And I looked at my friend. I was like, this can't be real life. For Anthony Glass Davis, they just got Luca, who's 25, 26, a generational type talent. I mean, he's already done so. He I think he averages 30 in the playoffs already. Like this, he's just in the finals. I mean, it was just so crazy. So if they were to figure out a way to get Jokic after that, I mean, tip of the cap. It's the old school Lakers again.
yeah. If they bring him in, that's Magic Kareem. That's Shaq and Kobe.
Oh my God. It's like,
That's just
oh, can't even imagine.
that's a pipe dream though. I'm
Yeah,
not banking on it or anything,
of
but
course.
the fact that this is out there is not a good sign for the Nuggets.
Yeah. And maybe the head coach getting fired right before the playoffs, which is unheard of, especially for a coach who just won a championship a couple years ago. Maybe that was part of Jokic kind of getting his way and the organization kind of, if he's got a problem with the guy and there's some rumblings that Jokic isn't feeling great about what's going on there, got to kind of coach. I mean, maybe there was some of that in there. I don't know. It's tough to know for sure. Just some speculation, but definitely interesting to see that. Taking a look at the Thunder and Grizzlies right now, the Thunder are only up two in the fourth quarter, so the Grizzlies are kind of figuring something out. A little bit of fight there, playing at home. Um, John Morant, bad shooting night, 6 for 11, only got 15 points, but Jaren Jackson Jr.'s got 22 points. And Scottie Pippen Jr., 28 points, 5 assists, 5 rebounds. So they're getting some unlikely contributions from some of their fringe guys when you would expect John Morant to do a lot of the heavy lifting there. So definitely interesting. Looking at the Knicks and Pistons series, the Pistons have played them pretty tough.
They have.
They're a young team. They're maybe a little early. They're kind of working through some growing pains. They're learning how to play, with this kind of pressure in a playoff atmosphere, and they're doing pretty damn well. So definitely an interesting series to see uh, play out. The Knicks only won by 2 points today. They lost the last game previously, so this is going to be one of those where the Knicks might have to the Knicks might have not expected this type of fight, and they might have to. Might be a knock it down, drag it out type of series.
I feel like
But
this might be a coming out party for Kate Cunningham. Like this
yeah,
has already been an absolutely amazing year for him, but a Knicks team that has these huge superstars expected to go far in the playoffs,
right,
and they are not going to make it easy.
right.
I could see this being something like uh, when Chicago took the Celtics to 7 in the first round when they were the 8 seed.
Hmm.
I could see it being something like that. Obviously, they're not an 8 seed, but the way that you would think about Detroit Pistons basketball the last few years,
Oh yeah,
this is not the team that we expected. This is years ahead of where we thought they would be.
Right.
And uh, Cade Cunningham was not a super highly touted number one draft pick, but look at how he's playing. He is leading this team, and if you had to say right now, who do you want, Jalen Brunson or Cade Cunningham? I'm going Cunningham.
That's definitely a hot take for sure. I mean, Brunson does his thing. The flopping for him lately has gotten really old. It's hard to watch on TV. I know he's a phenomenal player, but out there milking fouls and all this kind of stuff, it's just that type of play has become hard to watch. But I know he's a fantastic player, so I can't dunk on him too much. But the Pistons, it's interesting because they do have some young players like Cunningham, but they do have some veterans as well. You got a Tobias Harris, you got a Tim Hardaway Jr., you got a Jalen Duran, and then you have Schroeder and Malik Beasley. So there are some vets there to kind of mix in with the young guys, which has kind of made for an interesting dynamic with that roster. But um, tip of the cap to them. They were only 6 games over 500 for the season, got into the playoffs, and they're battling the Knicks here pretty hard, who were 20 games over 500. You got Bridges, Anunoby, Towns, Brunson, Hart, all these guys. So, um, got to respect what the Pistons are doing there, and it'll definitely be an interesting series to watch going forward. Um,
I think one of
ob-
the really interesting series right now too is the fact that the Bucks are down 2-0 to the Pacers.
yeah,
Obviously,
that-
they were without Damian Lillard the first game, but the way that Giannis was playing at the end of the season looked like he wanted to get his second championship,
yeah,
and down 2-0, that's tough to come back from.
it definitely is. I mean, they've got the championship pedigree, they've got the experience, so I wouldn't rule out them coming back and trying to figure things out. But it was just so crazy to me that Dame goes from, having to be on blood thinners for the blood clot situation. Oh, this could be career threatening. The same thing that Wemby kind of came down with. So to go from that to playing, 37 minutes in a playoff game, pretty much with no restrictions. Like it was pretty crazy to see. I know he shot 4 for 13, which wasn't great in their most recent loss to the Pacers, but um, it's kind of tough for a basketball team when a guy's been out for a bit and you're kind of, changing your system to fit, what you're going to be moving on from. You had a one system with Dame. You see that he's pretty much going to be out for the season, so you adjust. And then out of nowhere, oh, hey, Dame's back. Throw Dame back in the mix. Okay, let's kind of go back to what we were doing before. Dame shoots 13 times and only makes four out of 37 minutes. It's going to be hard to, kind of make up for not only changing, how you're going to do things with Dame back in the mix, but Dame getting his sea legs under him, getting his jump shot back, finding some sort of rhythm after missing all that time. How quickly can Dame figure that out before the series is over? Because if they go down 0-3, it's over.
Right.
So he's going to have to figure it out really quick. I know Bobby Portis last game went for 28 points and 12 rebounds, which was a great effort from him. But you can't rely on him to do that every game. You're going to need Dame to step it up. You're going to need a Gary Trent Jr. to step it up. You're going to need Kuzma to be better. So some of that
Kuzma has
supporting,
not been the guy lately.
yeah, he has not been the guy
I
at
would I
all.
would rather have Middleton right now than Kuzma.
Ooh, yeah, Middleton was I don't want to say a cornerstone player, but he was definitely one of their guys during that time when they were winning championships and stuff like that. Um, I mean, I think Celtics are going to blow by the Magic. There's really no surprise there. The Heat aren't very good either. I think the Cavs take that pretty easily. Um, but yeah, definitely some compelling series going on in the NBA. Definitely some things to keep an eye on as those series progress. The Lakers one, probably one of the favorites. Obviously, no bias coming from us. It's just an entertaining series.
Right.
It's two polarizing teams going against each other. Um,
You've got the guy that might be the face of the league in a few years versus the guy who's
yep.
been the face of the league for the last 20 years.
And Luca coming into that mix. Timberwolves they're still young, but they were Western Conference Finals last year, right?
Yes. That
So
was
I
with
mean,
Karl Anthony Towns.
yeah, with
I
Cat. So
I don't know what that trade was. We don't have to go into that, but Randall and DiVincenzo for Cat. I don't know about that one. I think both
Randall,
teams got worse.
I know Randall was a Laker. I know he's got some ability. I'm just not a Randall guy. I just don't think he's a winning player, I guess you could say. For what they're trying to do, go from Western Conference Finals to get into the finals and get over the hump. I just don't think he's that guy. I don't think he shoots well consistently enough. He kind of floats around the paint a little bit, kind of a mid-range guy. Sometimes he takes threes. He can get some rebounds, but he's kind of I don't think he fits what they're trying to do there. He's kind of there. And they're like, what is Randall's role on this team? It just doesn't. You know what Cat's role was? It was clear. He was a big man. He could stretch the floor. He could shoot some threes. He can get his rebounds, whatever. Randall is. I don't think he does anything particularly well. Like, is there any one thing that Randall does great that you're like, oh my God, Randall, we can rely on him to do this? Like, no, he's kind of a fringe guy. He's a name. He can put 25 and 12 up any given night, but he can also shoot 5 for 17 one night. And you're like, what the hell was that from him? Like he can completely disappoint you, or he can go way over your expectations, but most of the time he's right in the middle, and you're just kind of figuring out, is this a guy that T-Wolves can rely on down the stretch in big playoff series against great teams to get to the finals? I don't know.
Yeah. Uh Again, don't hate him, but I feel like he would have been much better if he was in the league like 10 years earlier.
Yes.
He relied a lot in college on his mid-range game. He has stretched it out to 3, but he's still not an elite three-point shooter out there.
Very
Uh
streaky.
just doesn't have the speed to compete with a lot of the small ball guys, but he's not big enough to be a small ball center. And he just fits very weird with Rudy Gobert.
Yeah,
Uh,
big time.
that Rudy Gobert trade just again, uh,
Getting paid a lot of money too.
for a guy that they want that the Lakers are actively trying to get to switch onto Luca.
Yep.
Uh,
Pull him out of the paint, and then you can do what you want from there.
yeah,
Uh, very, very interesting team dynamic from the T-Wolves. They look like world beaters in game one. Game two, they got pushed around a little bit. What is the scene going to look like in Minnesota in game three? It's going to be loud. It's going to be crazy. The T-Wolves are going to try to come out shooting the lights out like they did in game one. And what adjustments are they going to make? I know uh, JJ Redick, I've been very impressed with JJ Redick in year one as a head coach. I think he's very smart with the schematics. He's obviously got LeBron's, you know, nod of approval because he's pretty much his podcast buddy that he brought onto the team to coach the team.
does that mean we're gonna
Um,
get to be on that Lakers too?
there you go. We're gonna we could coach in the NBA if we really want to, but I'm just kidding. But obviously, but I've been impressed with his adjustments. I've been impressed with how he is hard on guys at times, especially young players. I know he ripped Connect few months ago. I forget what the play was, but is one play in particular I remember. He just chewed him out, jumped down his throat. I was like, damn. But I like his fire. I like how he can adjust on the fly. I like his leadership and schematics. And he was a former player and not that long ago. So and he was a pretty respected one, outside shooter, had a great career at Duke. So been very impressed by him, but it's going to be interesting to see how both teams adjust. Each one kind of won the way they wanted to in LA. What's game three going to look like? And I'll definitely be tuned in for that.
Yeah. So I think now we can pivot to what I've been looking forward to. I mean, I love the draft, but with a Yankees fan here, it's always great to talk about the World Series championship, Los
uh,
Angeles Dodgers.
being a Yankee fan in LA, it's tough, man. It really is, especially after that. That World Series had me stressed out, not only because I wanted the Yankees to win the World Series, but the backlash I was going to have to get from Dodgers fans for the rest of my life. Not just this year, not just in the off season, not just next year, for the rest of my life. When I wear a Yankee fan in LA, it's always going to be, oh, remember when Freddie Freeman, blah blah blah, all that crap. Nestor Cortez. It's going to go down in history as one of the most stressful championship watches of my life. And it did not go well. So a little bit of a sensitive topic there, but as the Dodger fan, as the king of the hill, what are some of your first impressions from this team in 2025? I know recently they haven't played great, but obviously the roster is ridiculously stacked. They're missing Blake Snell.
I think it's funny that
What?
you say they haven't played great and they are 16-9.
Yeah, well,
They are
si-
one of the top 5 teams in the majors. They've
they
got
just lost to the Cubs though, so twice. But
one of
I mean,
those losses though I felt was actually very impressive. Uh they
the extra innings one.
yes, the fact that they put up 10 runs and were able to come back after being down was it like 7 to 2. Uh we get it. Bullpen for the first time in forever seemed to let them down. They've been so consistent and reliable all
Yeah.
season.
Yep.
One of the best bullpens I've ever seen put together when they're fully healthy.
Oh yeah.
Same thing can be said with any other pitching. Blake Snell's being shut down for a while, not even going to be throwing, which is concerning. But then they have some guy called Clayton Kershaw who's pitching in the minors right now, getting ready to come back.
I
Uh,
mean, they're 5-5 in their last 10 games. So when you consider their offseason moves and you consider the talent on that team, you don't expect them to ever have a stretch where they're 500 over 10 games. But, I got to poke a little bit in the ribs when I can because they're going to win 135 games this year. So I got to take my I got to take my jabs when
who's
I can.
going to
Just
be
kidding.
extremely mad about that though is Panda Express. For those who don't know, every time the Dodgers win at home, you get a Panda plate for $6, and they're already 10-2 at home. So that's 10 times you could have gotten a great deal on it. I've already done it twice. I'm excited about it. There's one that I walked to real quick.
So you're saying the Dodgers are killing pandas when they win baseball games? Is that what you're saying?
That's exactly the words I used.
Just making sure I got that right. But I mean, if you're looking at the NL West, there's a couple teams, three teams, honestly, that are playing really, really well right now.
Mhm.
Obviously, it's April. You don't know if this is going to last throughout the rest of the season, so you take it with a grain of salt. The Pirates and the Angels also get up to good starts the last couple of years, and we all know how that ends. So you can't really go too much into these early April starts. But Padres at 17-8 in first place. The Giants are only a half game back at 17-9. Dodgers 16-9 in third place. And then you got the D-backs who are only 2.5 games behind the Dodgers. So those are four teams above 500, playing really good baseball. They have good pitching. The lineups are good. Um, if these four teams in the NL West can keep this up throughout the rest of the season, the NL West is going to be an absolute dogfight till the end.
Oh yeah. Uh, you know, the lately it seems like the Padres have been the the biggest rival for the Dodgers. You know, they went up 2-1 in the playoffs against us last year. We had to fight back in game 5 to
That
win.
was insane.
That was the toughest series we had all the entire
It
playoffs.
really was. I mean, but for you guys to fall back in that series and to go, I think 30 or 31 innings scoreless, your pitching held the Padres the rest of that series to win that series. Absolutely unbelievable. And every guy that came out of the Padres bullpen was throwing 98 to 100. You had Tanner Scott, you had Estrada, you had Suarez, the closer, big dude throwing the gas. So it's like, man, this Padres team is really, really good. But I know they're missing Jackson Merrill right now. So to be missing one of their core offensive players and still be playing this well, definitely a testament to some depth on their roster. I know over the offseason, there was a lot of talk about them being sellers. Would they move Dylan Cease? They got budget issues with the whole ownership situation. But they kind of added I forget who they added late. They added a starting pitcher, um, which was nice for the organization to see. Obviously, Manny Machado and Tatis, they want to be competing every year. They want to be competing against the Dodgers. They just had a series in the playoffs where they thought they had the Dodgers right where they wanted them and fell short, so they want to run it back. Um, definitely interesting to see how long this, pace will keep up for the Padres. Um, but we all know the Dodgers aren't going to keep playing like this.
No.
Blake Snell's going to come back. Kershaw's coming back. Sasaki's going to figure it out. Yamamoto right now, honestly, if the season ended today, would be the Cy Young Award winner in the
Oh
National
yeah.
League.
3 and
So
1 with a 0.93 ERA, 38 strikeouts, and 29 innings pitched.
he's
He
absolutely filthy.
Everybody was talking about how he could be a bust last year,
Yeah.
early last year. Now,
Yep.
that's why I'm not worried about Sasaki right now.
Me neither.
He's not doing like what everybody expected, but he's still young. He's under 25, and the transition from going from Japan to America, just in general, is a difficult one. Let alone changing your whole pitching style and the change of playing style that they have
Mhm.
between the leagues.
Yep.
Um, Honestly, there's so many things I could talk about, but I want to bring up just two right real quick before we move on to the next topic. Is Tommy Edman might be the steal
Oh
like
my
of
gosh.
the last year. Not
He's
only was he
unbelievable.
the NLCS MVP, but right now he has 8 home runs, tied for second most in the majors, and 19 RBIs. Has just absolutely been killing it. And then uh, we talk about how loaded the Dodgers are with their pitching, with their hitting, but it's not mentioned as much just how flush they are with their farm system right now. MLB has them ranked as the number 4 farm system. Baseball America has them as the number 3 farm system. They can very well be buyers at the trade deadline again.
100%.
We traded for Jack Flaherty last year, and that helped us win the World Series. That was
Kopech as
huge.
well. He was a great addition
OPEC,
to the
yeah.
bullpen. Edmund.
And then we talk about guys who could possibly be called up. Right now, we have we're hurting that in the outfield, and one of the really interesting prospects that the Dodgers have is Dalton Rushing, who's listed as a catcher slash outfielder, which is something that I have personally never seen. Usually, I see catcher and first base, maybe third base,
Right.
but there is nowhere to place him inside the diamond. He has to go outfield, and that's what he's been training at.
It's huge. I mean, if there's a need there, I mean, I know Pajes has been, not great. So maybe that's a place where they can slide in rushing eventually. Um, but yeah, the Dodgers, I mean, to win the World Series the way they did and to go out and get a Sasaki and to get a Blake Snell and to bring in a Tanner Scott and to re-sign a Tommy Edman and to re-sign a Teoscar Hernandez, it's like
It's it's
why
it's
why play
championship
the
or bust.
games? Why play the games? Just hand them the trophy now. But obviously, baseball, it's one of those sports where you can have the best team on paper. As a Yankee fan, I know that very well. You can have the best team on paper, and you're not going to win World Series every time. So, um, it's going to be unbelievable to see. I mean, they got guys like Dustin May who we didn't even talk about yet, and he throws like 102-mile-an-hour two-seam fastball. So it's like, it's an embarrassment of riches. Probably one of the most complete rosters I've seen in my whole life that I've been watching baseball. And if they don't win a championship, it could be if they don't go back to back, which hasn't been done in a while. It could be probably one of the most disappointing seasons, considering how good the team is, that
Right.
I could remember. Um,
Yeah.
But you look at the National League and it's stacked. So the American League's a little bit weak. The National League has got all the great competition. So, I mean, with the structure of the playoffs now, the Dodgers would have a little bit of a wait time after the wild card. We've seen that kind of give them problems. I think a couple of years ago when they lost to the Diamondbacks in the first round, I believe, in the division series. So, I mean, things happen in baseball. Maybe some of the guys are a little, rusty after a layoff watching the wild card. Obviously, injuries happen all the time. You can never predict that. But if this team stays pretty much intact and they're firing on all cylinders going into October, I don't know who's going to beat them. It would take the hand of God to remove the trophy from their hands in October if things are going well for them. So
Yeah. I mean, You look at it last year for the Dodgers as an off year, honestly. They didn't hit
Yeah.
100 wins. Their pitching was decimated. They went in with Walker Bueller, who hadn't been doing good the entire year, and then decided to flip a switch in the playoffs. Uh, it,
His
it was
curveball, his
just
his breaking ball was so irritating to watch. The Yankees could not touch that freaking breaking ball, and he kept flipping it in there over and over again. And I was like, oh my God. But for them to be basically going into the playoffs with two starters and every third game going with a bullpen game and still winning the championship the way they did, it's unbelievable. Absolutely unbelievable. The Yankees, had Garrett Cole going. Um, he spilled his guts out on the field in two starts. Obviously, he had the mishap in game five. But there's a lot of talk about game five of that World Series. And yes, it was ugly for the Yankees. Aaron Judge had the awful, terrible, one of the worst drops I've ever seen a major league outfielder have, especially considering the situation. Garrett Cole doesn't get over the first base to cover. That fifth inning just becomes an absolute travesty. Um, but to me, the World Series was won or lost in the first three games. The Yankees had to win one in LA. They didn't. You had Nestor Cortez serve up the fattest meatball I've ever seen to Freddie, who hit it 800 feet, um, and it ripped my soul from my body. And then game two, it was Yamamoto, who the Yankees struggled against in June at Yankee Stadium. So okay, we're probably not going to hit Yamamoto in game two. Why would you go Nestor Cortez in game one and blow that game when you had Garrett Cole pitch fantastic? The Yankees had a couple different leads late there, and they gave up those leads as well. So the first three games to me was the whole World Series. Aaron Judge wasn't hitting. Juan Soto was the only guy who did any damage against Yamamoto. He took him deep, but um, by the time Game Five came around, the series was over, in my opinion. I didn't really care about the fifth inning. I didn't really care about the Aaron Judge drop because once you go down 0-3 in a playoff series, it's pretty much over. And I
right.
say pretty much because 2004, I can't say it definitively because 2004 Yankees blowing it to the Red Sox in the ALCS still haunts me to this day. But 99.999% of the time, you're down 0-3 in a playoff series, you're going to lose it. The Yankees were down 0-3. Anything that happened after that, I didn't care.
Right.
They weren't going to beat the Dodgers four straight. So game five is a moot point for me. I know they're making t-shirts about it. They're doing all the social media, all the whatever. But yeah, not really a huge thing for me, that game five thing. But the way the Yankees lost that World Series, I mean, to not only to lose to the Dodgers, but the Yankees were in on Jack Flaherty at the trade deadline. The Yankees were in on Michael Kopech at the trade deadline. They were in on Tommy Edman at the trade deadline, and they lost all three players of the Dodgers. Yamamoto, the Yankees threw a huge contract offer to him in the offseason previously. They lost him to the Dodgers. It's just there were also rumors at the time that Freddie Freeman might have been a fit for the Yankees as well when he was available, and obviously he went to the Dodgers. So it's like all these players that the Yankees were in on or rumored to be interested in had made offers to, all teamed up to slam their face on the mud in their first World Series in 15 years. So, yeah, definitely a tough watch for me. But for Dodger fans, that was about as good as it gets. And it was one of the most hyped matchups. For how many years, going back to when we were in high school, would we say, "Oh my God, imagine if the Yankees and the Dodgers were in the
Right.
World Series? How cool that would be!" And it finally happened, and it was the most humiliating watch for me ever. I was like, to have such a great matchup like this and for it to not be competitive through 6 or 7 games, it just felt like, I don't know. Obviously,
All right. Sorry about that. We had a little bit of technical difficulties. Sean's rant just crashed his computer.
I mean, to finish whatever I was saying, it just felt like for such a iconic World Series matchup that so many people have wanted for so many years, for it to have gone the way it did, at least for Yankee fans plus all of the other fan bases that aren't Dodger fans, I mean, it was a little bit disappointing. Dodger fans obviously are thrilled, but
I was not.
um, of course, of course. But people like a Cardinals fan or someone that has no skin in the game, obviously,
Oh
oh,
yeah.
cool, these two teams are playing. I want a 6 or 7 game series with some dramatic stuff going on, whatever. You had your dramatics in the first game with Nestor and the Freddie situation, but after that, it was just an ass kicking. But broke some ratings records, and Major League Baseball is definitely happy about that. Um,
Yeah.
but
Why don't we talk a little bit more about some happy things for the Yankees now?
oh,
They're doing
is
pretty good
is
right
there
now.
any such thing about happiness for a Yankees fan? I gotta ask.
You talked
But
about first base and how Freddie Freeman had been talked about to go to the Yankees. Right now, the
right,
Yankees actually have the two players with the most hits in the MLB right now.
right.
That's Aaron Judge and their new signing, Paul Goldschmidt.
Yeah, and I gotta say, I was not a huge fan of the Paul Goldschmidt move in the offseason. Obviously, when he was in Arizona, he was a phenomenal player. He won an MVP in St. Louis. But last season, he had a lot of his numbers were showing a lot of regression. And obviously, a guy pushing 38 years old, there's not a lot of hope that you can reverse that, obviously. We see that, we just experienced that with Josh Donaldson on the Yankees. We're seeing that right now with DJ LeMahieu as he approaches his late 30s. So it felt like Goldschmidt was like a stopgap, um, while they hoped that Vladdy was a free agent or something next year. But I mean, Goldschmidt right now is just unbelievable. OPS of 922. He's hitting 383 right now, batting average, and he's not hitting for a lot of power yet. But he's putting the ball in play. He had 3 hits yesterday. Um, and he's kind of serving as that right-handed power hitter. Oh, not even power hitter yet. He's mostly slapping singles, but he's serving as, a dependable middle of the order hitter while they wait for Stanton to come back.
Right.
So very, very encouraging so far. I know it's only April, so a lot of things can change over time, especially with an older player as the wear and tear kind of catches up with you over 162. But um, unbelievable what he's doing so far.
I think the biggest thing that surprised me is he knew how to cover first base.
Imagine that. So does Max Fried, who's been a nice ad as well. Um, the other day, he had a pretty good start. Carlos Rodon's last 2 starts been pretty good. So obviously losing Garrett Cole. I mean, Yankee fans are going through it, man. You lose the World Series, then you lose the Juan Soto sweepstakes, then you get to spring training and Garrett Cole's out for the season.
Yeah.
Like what else can go wrong? I'm not even going to say it, knock on wood somewhere, but Aaron Judge is unbelievable. He's on fire right now. Ben
His
Rice is hitting pretty well.
his stats over his last like 162 games is just absolutely unbelievable. He's hitting like 380, 60 plus home runs, like 170 RBIs.
Yep.
He's
It's
literally one of those guys that if he just stays healthy, what type of amazing season is he going to be able to put together?
mhm.
He's not even using a torpedo bat.
Yeah. Oh man, the whole scandal with those is so funny. But now you look at Jazz and Volpe who are crushing with him, and now they're both struggling big time. So maybe the torpedo bats aren't all that they were chalked up to be in the beginning of the season. But
Pitchers
like
adjust. That's the
oh,
thing.
of course. I mean, when I look at that bat, the handle looks so long. Obviously, they take some wood from the lower part of the bat and they move it up towards the barrel. If you get jammed on that handle, that bat is sawed off in 100 pieces all over the infield. So I don't know. Maybe some pitchers think they can get inside on guys with that thing, but going back to what you said about Judge, though, I mean, his regular season dominance makes the October failures that much more of a head scratcher. Like, when is he gonna figure that out? When is that gonna click? I think in the first 3 games of the World Series, he was 0 for 12 with 7 strikeouts. So you go from a guy who has an 1100 OPS for the regular season, goes into the playoffs, all of a sudden he can't get on base, he can't hit, he strikes out every at bat. It's like, is he just not built for the bright lights? But he's playing as on the Yankees as the captain at Yankee Stadium all the time. So it's like obviously those lights aren't too bright. The pinstripes aren't too heavy. But what is it about October that's making this guy choke so bad? Um,
I
it's
think
kind of to the point. Go
oh,
ahead.
I think part of it is the depth of the lineup that they had last year.
Yeah.
Is it felt like if it wasn't him, Stanton, or Jazz,
Or
they
Soto.
oh yeah, Soda. He's whatever, I guess. Yeah, if it wasn't
He's
one of
a backup outfielder.
their like elite players, the rest of the guys weren't doing anything. That he might have
Absolutely.
been like trying to do too much in those situations and not be himself, but try and do that extra and be the hero. That's
It felt
that's
like
what I
that.
look at when it comes to the playoffs.
Yeah, I mean, it just felt like he was pressing. It looked like he was pressing, um, almost to the point where you kind of felt bad for him because you knew what was coming. He stepped in the batter's box. He was wide-eyed, um, waving at stuff he wasn't swinging at during the regular season. Yamamoto absolutely abused him in game two. And it was just like, okay, this is Mr. 62 home runs. This is Mr. Record breaking regular seasons, multiple time MVP. When's it going to show up when it matters? And I mean, as a Yankee captain, Jeter was the most recent one. He won 5 championships. Aaron Judge had a late start. He went to Fresno State. I mean, he's into his, he's pushing his mid 30s now. Um, the window's closing pretty quick. So it's going to come down to, you just miss probably what might be the only opportunity he might have at winning a championship last year. You hope it wasn't the case. You hope maybe he gets back or he can, find his way into another World Series and kind of get a redo. But if that was the only chance he gets going forward, I mean, I would say it's a bit of a stain on his legacy. But in terms of a regular season hitter, I think what he's doing right now might be arguably one of the most impressive feats we've seen from a hitter ever, considering the fact that he's not taking steroids and considering the fact that the pitching in Major League Baseball right now is as nasty as it's ever been. The analytics are as detailed as they've ever been and sharp. All the pitchers are working on tunneling, sequencing, pitch shapes, all this different stuff. They got every ounce of information they could possibly need. So it's never been harder to hit than it is right now. And Aaron Judge is hitting 400 right now. It's like, what? Like, how is this even possible? But it's crazy to see. It's going to be interesting to see whether the bullpen has enough going forward because I know Aaron Boone loves to burn the bullpen. The starting rotation took a hit with losing Garrett Cole, but they did add Max Fried. Luis Hill's coming back. Clark Schmidt just came back. So they are getting some reinforcements there. But if you're, let's say a hypothetical Yankees versus Dodgers happened again, the Dodgers, their roster is head and shoulders better than the Yankees roster right now. So it's like, I mean, what can you realistically expect from the Yankees? I know the American League is pretty weak right now, but can the roster hold up? I don't know. They're relying on a lot of young guys. If you look at the batting averages towards the end of that lineup, it's pretty rough looking. So, um, as a non-Yankee fan, what are some of the things you see from the team right now, and what do you think they might be as the season goes on?
Yeah, I just see pure greatness when it comes to Aaron Judge. I definitely feel like not having uh Soto there and having to rely on Cody Bellinger is a huge downgrade. Cody
Yeah.
as a Dodgers fan was one of the most infuriating people because he had amazing seasons and then he'd be terrible in the playoffs. Then he'd have a
Yeah.
terrible season and then be amazing in the playoffs. He was just so inconsistent, you could never really tell. He changed his batting stance multiple times. I thought his career was over when then he went to the Cubs and has a great year.
Yeah.
Then next year it seems like he goes right back to where he was before. Uh Seems to be a little bit revitalized so far with the Yankees. Has hit of course has hit a home run on 420 3 years in a row, which I have no clue why. There's
Are you
there's no
saying he
memes about
might
that.
partake in a little bit of a little bit of greens every now and then? Is that what you're implying?
Oh, I'm not saying anything. I think he has naturally squinted eyes.
Oh, it must be. It must be. But yeah, I mean he's struggling so far. I know he battled a rib issue last year. I think he had a cracked rib and then he got hit by a pitch in his finger. So he dealt with some injuries last season. He's coming into this season fully healthy, and he's off to a pretty rough start. So, like you said, going from Soto to a struggling Bellinger the following season is pretty rough. But it makes it even more unbelievable what Judge is doing with pretty much zero protection in the lineup.
Right.
Um, I mean,
I mean,
you don't really have to pitch the Judge right now,
yeah.
and teams are, and they're getting burned. So, it the question that I always have is when is Judge going to start getting the Barry Bonds treatment? Where are they just going to start walking the guy three, 2 or 3 times a game and just saying we're going to make somebody else beat us?
I don't know. Last time I saw someone get walked was in the World Series, and Freddie Freeman said, "I took that personally."
Some of those moments I can't recollect for some reason, but
No,
it is what it is.
for all the things that you were saying, I think that's even more impressive. I think the Yankees right now are 15-10.
Yep.
Uh, we're talking up the Dodgers and everything. They're only a game above the Yankees at the moment.
Right.
Uh,
And for the Yankees, it's kind of been a tale of two seasons in the very short month of April that it has been. They beat up on the Brewers bad in the first series of the season. Then they played the Pirates. Should have swept them. Lost a tough game 3 because Devin Williams has been struggling bad. I don't know what the heck's wrong with the guy, but they beat up on those two teams. But against the good teams, the Diamondbacks, the Tigers, the Giants, the Guardians, they've pretty much lost almost every series against better competition so far. Um, so it's kind of hard to get a read on the team right now. I know there's a lot of things going on with injuries, and they're getting Loizaga back soon. They just got Ian Hamilton back. Devin Williams is trying to find his groove right now. Luis Hill's coming back in a couple months. Stanton started taking batting practice, so there's better players coming. Um, for me, I think they just need to tread water until the All-Star break. Just be around the division lead, be around a wild card berth, playoff spot. Just be, around a playoff spot when you get to that All-Star break, and then you can see if you need to add pieces, if the guys that came back are good enough to where you don't have to add pieces. It's going to be interesting to see, how things kind of play out. But a lot of Yankees fans felt after Garrett Cole was gone for the year, they felt like the season was over. So there's a lot of back and forth within the fan base of whether this is a punt year, whether they actually have a chance to, do something special this year. But the American League remains pretty weak.
right.
So, I mean, if you can get a Stanton back, you get a Luis Hill back, you could get a Loizaga back if some guys could stay healthy, if Bellinger could start hitting, if Goldschmidt keeps this up. I mean, maybe they could find their way back into the ALCS with a chance to get to the World Series again. But um, if they run into the Dodgers, I don't like their chances. I'm just gonna say that.
Yeah. I just feel like with the way that uh, the AL is, that you just need to get into the playoffs, and it's a wild card from there.
Yeah,
Uh, who knows? We were just talking about Judge. He could possibly turn it around and completely win them a series or two.
right.
Or if Luis Hill can come back and pitch like he was early in this last year,
100%.
he can win you a game just like that. He
Hmm.
could replace Garrett Cole if he pitches the way that he was last
Hmm.
year.
It's true. And Max Fried, he's an established, ace type pitcher. He's been great this season so far. The only thing that scares me was his injury history. He's had forearm issues before. He's had shoulder issues before. He's had a hamstring issue before. So, it's April. We keep saying that. It's very early. It's hard to come up with, a bunch of solid hot takes in April. But, um, you know, we're kind of watching Max Fried right now, holding our breath. Like, yeah, he's pitching great. There might be something that flares up in the middle of the year, but as long as he's ready by October, whatever, just be ready for the playoffs. That's when we're going to need him, obviously. But yeah, the roster. I mean, They've improved defense and offensive first base with Rizzo gone. Gleyber Torres isn't playing second anymore. He's off in Detroit. They got Jazz playing second now. He's been struggling a little bit, but you expect him to play better. Third base is kind of a black hole right now. Volpe at short's been a bit of a disappointment. You got Austin Wells behind the plate, Dominguez playing left. So some young players getting opportunities here. It's just a kind of an interesting mix of veterans and young players getting their first shot. And there's just a lot up in the air in terms of what to expect from that group. But um, it's a weak American League, like I've said before. And if there was going to be a year where, some young guys get an opportunity and can do a lot of growing up and get into a playoff situation and make a run, I mean, this would be the year to do it. Looking at the American League, the division leaders right now, the Yankees are up by 2 games over Boston. I think Boston is going to turn it up around, next couple months, and they're going to be much better than they played so far. Detroit, pesky. They got Schoolbowl. They got Jack Flaherty back. Rotation is pretty solid. Cleveland's always a pain in the butt there. Seattle leading the West. Eh, do we really expect them to be there at the end? They always fall apart
They do have a
towards the
few
end of the
just
season.
elite pitchers with
They do.
Bryce Miller and oh my gosh, what's the other one?
George Kirby,
George Kirby, yeah.
and then I think they saw Wu.
Oh yeah, Woo too.
He's pretty filthy.
So,
So there's some
like
good
we
arms
said,
there.
their pitching could easily win them a series just between those three.
Yeah. But do you think they can hit enough?
I don't know.
It's tough.
I do have a funny story for you real quick before we
Uh-oh.
move on from the Mariners. All right, so Mariners are partially owned by the Nintendo of America.
Uh-oh.
So I don't know if you know, but they have like a patch now that's the Nintendo Switch 2
Oh,
patch.
yeah. Uh-huh.
So MLB The Show is on uh Nintendo, PlayStation, and Xbox. But because they want to go with realism, because they've added the patches in the video game. So now if you play
Oh, wow.
MLB The Show on PlayStation or Xbox, you're seeing advertisements for the Nintendo Switch 2.
Oh, wow. That's crazy. So I mean, you've got the other consoles competition on the sleeves of players for like a PlayStation game
Yeah.
or like an Xbox game. That's
And
insane.
it's just a hilarious little story right there.
I mean, licensing and advertising and all that crazy stuff. I mean, it's pretty shocking that they're getting away with that. But um, yeah, that's pretty interesting. I mean, going back to, some of these different American League teams in their divisions, I mean, Angels fell off already. They're only a game and a half out of first place, but they're going to fade. Texas has been better than expected, I guess you can say. They're 14 and 11, tied for first place in their division. And, they've got some good hitters. You've got Adolis Garcia, who, had a rough year last year, but he's had some playoff moments. Corey Seager, obviously, Marcus Simeon.
Corey Seager just went on IL though,
Yeah, I
which
mean, but you
he's going to
expect him
go
to be
on
back.
2 to 3 times throughout the
Oh yeah,
year.
it's the usual for him. Wyatt Langford's a good player. You got Young playing third base, so they added Jake Berger to play first. That's a lineup that they're gonna hit. They're definitely gonna hit throughout the course of the season. You just wonder if their pitching is going to be enough. Is DeGrom going to finally stay healthy? What can you expect from Nate Eovaldi going later into his career? He's getting kind of up there. Um, I think Tommy Malley's pitching pretty well right now, but um, uh, overall, if you look at the competition in the American League, it's really nothing to be terrified about. I mean, the Yankees can probably handle any of those teams, especially when they get some of their big guns back. But um, looking at the National League, you got obviously the Mets got Juan Soto, 18-7 record. They've gone to a pretty great start. The Phillies are always tough. You got the Cubs playing pretty well right now. And then the NL West, the stacked NL West, you got the Padres, Giants, and D-backs all playing pretty well. So um, it's looking like if things hold up the way they are right now, it's looking like the National League is going to be a bloodbath, and the American League is going to be, whoever can squeak by over their competition and find their way into a World Series. But what are you thinking about the Mets so far? Do you think their early start is sustainable, or what? As a Dodger fan, looking at the rest of the National League, at what your top competition might be, are they someone you might have to be conscious about going forward?
They've got some good players. Lindor is always great. but they finished the season so strong last year, and it seems like they're continuing that this year. So if they can have that momentum this entire season, I definitely think that they could be up there. And that's
for
the
sure.
thing is, if let's say the Dodgers play them in a best of three or best of five type series, anything could happen in baseball, man.
Yeah, true. I mean, Juan Soto's been off to a little bit of a tough start. I mean, obviously, he's going to hit, but their pitching is interesting. A lot of people weren't sure if they were going to go with Corbin Burns. Were they going to go with a Max Fried? Were they going to add like that horse type starting pitcher to their rotation? Um, but they're going with like a Griff Canning. They're going with a Peterson from the left side. They're going with a Tyler McGill type. It's kind of a starting rotation interesting group, I guess you could say. Clay Holmes is a starting pitcher for them, so that's kind of weird as a Yankee fan to see. But yeah, you just wonder if that rotation can, sustain this type of start throughout the rest of the year, and can that rotation size up to a Dodgers lineup in the playoffs, or can they, go toe to toe with the Padres in the possible playoff series, or someone else? But um, yeah, a lot of great storylines in baseball this year. A lot to follow. Not only as the fans of the teams that we're watching, but some of the other teams in divisional races throughout the year. But overall, I mean, it was a fun NFL draft today. We got our boy Warren
We
showing
did.
up in Indy. Shador Falls. It's been an interesting storyline there. NBA playoffs have been very exciting, and baseball's been really fun so far. So, um,
Yeah, it's
a lot to a lot to be excited about, and a lot going forward.
I'm excited. We're gonna try and do this every week moving forward. Just talk about sports like we have been out today, and we hope you guys enjoyed. Thanks for watching.
Absolutely. Thanks for being with us, and we'll see you next time.